Hello, everyone, and welcome to the next Meshiest CodeClinic. My name is Joel Parks. I am the product manager of the Wijmo component library, and today I'm going to be going over a presentation for the JavaScript CollectionView class in Dataflow. Load, sort, filter, group, and edit data efficiently. So the first thing before we get into the actual demonstration that I'd like to go over is what is Wijmo. So Wijmo is a pure JavaScript UI component library from Meshiest. It is our front-end UI component library. It includes things like grids, charts, input controls, maps, things like that. It's built for modern web frameworks such as Angular, React, and Vue, while also supporting things like Next, Nuxt, and Svelte. And Wijmo is focused on delivering high-performance, enterprise-grade data visualization and input controls. Some of the key features include its lightweight, dependency-free modules, its extensive data controls, seamless binding with the collection view for data management, and fast rendering and a small footprint for real-time web apps. So what we're actually here to discuss is the collection view. First, what is the collection view? The collection view is Wijmo's core data layer. It acts as an in-memory data controller, providing collection management. If you've ever worked or done any .NET development, you may be familiar with .NET's collection view class. Wijmo's collection view class is very similar. It provides much of the same functionality and features. And the collection view also provides a consistent API for managing data across all of your Wijmo controls. So why does the collection view matter? It allows you to centralize your data logic. One source manages filtering, sorting, paging, etc. It automatically updates bound controls when your data changes. So if you have multiple controls that are using the same collection view and you make a change in one, that change will be reflected in the other control as well. It provides transactional editing and change tracking, and it also works seamlessly with FlexGrid, FlexChart, and Wijmo's input controls. As you can see here down at the bottom, we have a small code example here. It's very straightforward to actually initialize a collection view. You simply create a new collection view object. You pass it some data, and then that collection view can be passed on to either one of Wijmo's controls or one of your controls as its item source. So now let's actually go ahead and hop over to some samples here. So the first thing that we're going to go over is basic sorting with Wijmo. And a lot of these samples, we're going to be using the FlexGrid as kind of our lens into what you can do with the collection view. There will be a couple other examples using some input controls and some chart controls, but for the most part, we're going to be focusing on the collection view as a way to visually represent what's going on, or the grid to visually represent what's going on behind the scenes with the collection view. So the first thing is we need to make sure that we import all of the required Wijmo files. Since these are all just plain JavaScript applications, we're going to be using Wijmo's CDN to import those files. So first, we have the Wijmo CSS file that we're importing, the JS file that we're importing, the main JS file, and then we are also importing the grid specific JS file, and then we are also importing some Bootstrap CSS here to add some stylings to Wijmo's controls. We are doing some basic styling here, and then down here in the body is where we are initializing some of our controls here. So the first thing is we have three radio input buttons here, one marked no sort, one marked sort by country, and one marked as sort by country and sales. And the values are empty for the no sort, country for the sort by country, and country sales for the sort by country and sales. We also have this div element that we're setting up so that we can bind Wijmo's grid control to it. And then we have this get data function, which we are using to return an array of data that we're going to use. So we're just generating some mock data to go in these controls. Now, as in the PowerPoint presentation, as you can see here, setting up the collection view is very easy and straightforward. You just set up a new variable and assign that to the collection view, Widgmo's collection view object. And we are using get data to pass our array of data into the collection view. Next, we set up our flex grid, and we pass as the item source parameter, we pass it the collection view that we created, so that our flex grid is now using our collection view that we've set up. And then finally, we have this add event listeners change event. So this is designed to listen to those radio buttons that we've set up to determine how we want to do our sorting with the collection view. So what this does is it will initially clear our collection view .sort descriptions array, and sort descriptions is what determines how we're going to be doing sorting on our collection view. And then the next thing it does is for each element in the value of the component that we've, or the radio button that we've clicked, it will go ahead and create new sort description objects using those properties. So if we go back up here, you can see the value is an empty value, or country and sales, split here by a comma. So that'll go through, and based on our selection, that will push new sort descriptions onto the collection view's sort descriptions array. Now, if we go over to the browser here and take a look at this, you'll be able to see this in action. So we have our collection view data, which is being displayed in our flex grid here. So as you can see, this is all of the data that we have. Currently, there is no sort going on. If we were to click sort by country, as you can see here, it now sorts all of our data by the country columns. As you can see here, all of the data is grouped appropriately. If we click sort by country and sales, as you can see now, we're still sorting by country, but we are also sorting descending by sales. So as you can see here, we have all of our German countries sorted. And then as we go through the sales column here, you can see it's sorted in a descending value. Same thing, we move on. After Germany, Greece, everything's still sorting in descending value. The next part of the collection view sort that I'd like to take a look at here is our international sorting. So this is going to be comparing the basic JavaScript array sort to Widgmo's collection view sort when doing sorting with special characters or upper and lowercase values. So as you can see here, we have our data that we're returning, and this is a series of names, both with upper and lowercase characters to start everything out, as well as some special characters here as well. Now we are using a basic JavaScript array sort functionality to sort that for the JavaScript array. For Widgmo's collection view, however, we are passing a sort description here, except for this one, it is a null sort description, and we are base sorting this ascending. So when we do a null sort description, it will just apply the base level sorting, so the string-based sorting of the collection view instead of any specific type of sorting by, country column or sales column or anything like that. So if we go back to our browser here, we'll go to our international sort. So as you can see here, for the JavaScript sorting array, we sort initially by uppercase, and then it will go down to lowercase at the bottom. Whereas with Widgmo's collection view, you can see it does uppercase and lowercase sorting, but it also sorts special characters as well. So as you can see here in the JavaScript array sort, we have this ACAO, and then it goes to the ADIEU value, and then ACAO again with these special characters. But if we look at the collection view sort, you can see ACAO, and then it immediately sorts into the ACAO with special characters. You can see the same thing down here as well. So that is the basics of sorting with Widgmo's collection view. The next thing that we are going to take a look at here is grouping with Widgemo's collection view. So same thing as with the sorting, we're importing all of the files from the CDN. We're setting up an element to bind the grid to, and then we are creating our data here. However, when we set up our collection view, we are setting up a property with that collection view, which can be passed as an argument to the collection view. And that is this group descriptions property. Now, this group descriptions property expects to take in an array of either strings or group description elements. In this case, however, we are just providing it with a string title, and that string's value is country. So it's going to be grouping based on this country column that we're going to have within our data. Then all we do is we set the collection view as our grid's item source, and we are good to go. So we come back here. We'll go into our grouping page. And as you can see here, we are grouping by country. So it shows all of our US country groupings. We can collapse that. Now it shows all of our Germany country groupings, UK country groupings, so on and so forth. Now I mentioned that this is the group descriptions property is an array. So you can actually provide multiple group descriptions here. So say we wanted to not only group by country, but we also wanted to group by the agents. We can do that as well simply by adding this agent string here. We'll go ahead and save that and come back here. And now you can see that we are grouping both by country, but each country has a subgroup in it, which is named agent. So you can see here within our country grouping, we have an agent John, we have another agent Bill. And then in our Germany groupings, there is an agent here named Steve, another one named Stephanie, and then so on and so forth for all of our different country groupings. Next, we'll show off some custom groups that you can set up using Widgemo's collection view. Now, these ones, we're using some input controls to show the custom grouping off. So instead of importing the grid JavaScript file, we're importing our input JavaScript file here. We have a input to allow for the user to show or hide the groupings. And then we have elements here that we can bind a combo box and a list box to. And then finally, we have a very large array here of names. And we are going to be grouping these by the first character in each of the strings. So as I mentioned before, you can either set up an array of strings as your group description, or you can do group description objects themselves. For this one, we are going to set up a new group description object, which we're just going to call group description initialization. Now, for the group description initialization, we are setting this group name from item property. This will iterate through the items in our array. And in this case, we want to group by the first character in each string element. So we use item position 0. And then down here in our collection view where we set it up, we're just setting the sort description to blank. Our group description is that group description initialization that we've set up to group by the first character in each string. And then we remove the current item so there's not any current selection going on whenever we initialize the controls. Finally, for the show groups, we add an event listener here just to show or hide groups. And then finally, we initialize our two controls here. We set the item sources for both of them to our collection view that we initialized. And then we set the show groups description on both of them to true by default. Now, if we come back here to our browser, we can come in here to custom grouping. And as you can see here, we are showing groups by default. For the list box, as you can see here, we have a label here at the top that just says A. So that shows that these are all of this grouping is grouped by everyone whose first name starts with A. And as we scroll down through here, we'll see that it will transition to B and then C and so on and so forth. The same thing with the combo box as we go ahead and scroll through here, A, B, C, and so on. And if we remove the groups, as you can see, those group labels are no longer displaying. Next, we are going to take a look at paging. So we'll hop over here to this paging example here. So Wijmo's collection view also has another component that kind of goes hand in hand with that. That is the collection view navigator, which is an input control. So we are going to be adding in both the grid JavaScript file and the input JavaScript file here. We set up our elements to bind those controls to. So we have this WJ grid element as well as this pager element. We have all the data that we're generating from our getData function. And then we can come in here and initialize our collection view. Now with paging, you can initialize a property called page size within the collection view. And that just takes a numeric value to determine how many elements we're going to show per page. Next, we set up our collection view navigator component here. We're just calling that collection view nav. We set this by page property to true so that the paging is being implemented. We set this header format property so that we are displaying a string value within the collection view navigator. This current page and page count variable that we're using here are inherent values of the collection view navigator, so you can just reference them like so. And then this N0 number is just some formatting that we're doing for the numeric value that we're going to display in that string. N just stands for numeric, and 0 is the number of decimal places that we're taking that number to. So in this case, it's just a plain numeric value with 0 decimal places. And then to set the collection view, we set that as the CV property for the collection view navigator. Finally, we initialize our flex grid and pass our collection view as its item source as well. And if we come back to our browser here, we can open up the paging page here. And as you can see, we're only displaying 15 elements on this page with the collection view. So starting at ID 0 and going to ID 14. As you can see here now, the collection view navigator is showing that we're on page 1 of 10. And it also provides some buttons that we can use to navigate throughout our collection view pages. So you can go one page at a time here. And as you can see, we're just going through all of our data. You can skip to the end, and we have the ability to skip back to the beginning as well. So that's how you go about implementing paging with your collection view. Next, we are going to take a look at how you can add filtering to your collection view. And what this is going to do, the setup is the same as with all of our other ones. We have our CDN imports, our element that we're going to bind our grid to show off what we're doing with the collection view, and then the getData function that's returning our mock data. Now, in the collection view, when we initialize that, we are setting up this filter property, which can take a function as what's being set to it. And that function has this, we can pass this item argument to it. That item argument is just each element within our collection view array, so each element within our data. And what we're doing here is we are showing how you can filter so that we are only showing items with the country of US and any field where the item.download, the downloads value is greater than 10,000. So now whenever we run this, we should only see data objects in our collection view being displayed by our collection view that have a country value of US and a downloads value greater than 10,000. Then we just set that collection view to our item sources, to our item source property of our flex grid. And if we come back here, we'll go to our filter page. And as you can see, we are only displaying country values of US where the downloads value is greater than 10,000. And you're not just restricted to one or two. You can do multiple filter properties. So maybe we wanted to do, say, filter by Japan. where items.download is greater than 10,000 and item.sales is greater than, we'll say 4,000. Now we can go ahead and save that, and we'll actually see. So there are three values that fall in our data set that meet those criteria. So you can see here, country values where it equals Japan, download values where it's greater than 10,000, and sale values that are greater than 4,000. So you can see you can implement some pretty interesting and functional filtering features within the collection view. All right, the last section that we're going to take a look at before we move on to the final demo is the editing section here. So there's a couple different things that we're going to show off as far as editing goes with the collection view. The ability to add and remove fields, add calculated fields, handle multiple controls with one collection view, and track changes that your users make within the collection view. So first, we're doing adding and removing. So everything is set up like with our previous samples, except we have this ordered list, which we're going to actually use to show off the different elements within, or the different fields within the collection view as we add and remove them. We are creating our data here with our getData method. We are setting up our collection view and passing our data to it. And then we are setting up our flex grid and adding our collection view as its item source. Now we're doing a couple additional things here as well. We have this allow add new and allow delete properties, which we're setting both of these to true so that our users can add elements and delete elements from the flex grid, which will in turn add and delete them from the collection view. And then we have these two events, on cell edit ended and on deleted row. These will fire whenever we finish editing a cell or whenever we delete a row. And that's just calling this list update method. And that is just going to update our ordered list to show what exactly is in the collection view. Now, if we head back to the browser and we go to add remove, so you can see here, this is just the ordered list of all of the countries within our array, within our collection view. If I were to come in here and we'll say delete this Germany one, as you can see here, that's now been deleted from the collection view. It's no longer a part of it. Now say we're to come in here and we'll just add another one. We'll call it Spain. That goes ahead and gets added to the collection view. And as you can see here, it gets pushed onto here. So the collection view does allow you to add and delete elements of the view's items array. Next, we are going to, because this kind of goes hand in hand with adding and removing, we're going to review how you can track changes with the collection view. And this is very straightforward. So when we set up our collection view array, there's a property here called track changes. We just set this to true. And that will make it so that whenever anything is done to the collection view, it gets added to either the items edited, the items added, or the items removed arrays of the collection view. And what we're going to do is we are setting up 3 additional flex grids that are going to display those items that we edit, delete, or add onto our main collection view. Now, for each of those, we are setting the item source to the items edited, items added, and items removed arrays of our collection view. And those will get updated, and those updates will get pushed onto our grids that we're using to display those tracked changes. So now if we come back here, we have our tracked changes page here. And as you can see, there is a grid for edited, added, and removed changes. So say we come in here and for the Japan field, the sales was actually calculated incorrectly. We'll just say $9,482. We'll go ahead and hit edit. And as you can see, that change now gets added to our items edited array, which then in turn gets reflected in this edited flex grid. If I were to come in here and remove, we'll say the UK field, we'll just go ahead and delete that. You can see that now that has been added to our items removed field, which in turn gets reflected in this flex grid. And we will go ahead and add another item here. And as we hit enter, that gets committed to our collection view, which in turn pushes it onto our items added array in our collection view. And that change gets reflected here within this flex grid. So you can see the collection view allows you to very easily and straightforwardly track any edits, additions, or removals from the data set that it is managing. Now we'll move on to calculated fields. So the collection view does support the ability to add your own custom calculated fields to it. Here we have a basic array of data that we're managing, and then we set up this get calculated view function, which will return a collection view. Now that collection view that it will return will also have some calculated fields in it. With Wijmo's collection view, you can set up your calculated fields either as function-based expressions or string-based expressions, which we show off right here. But for the purposes of this demo, we're actually going to be incorporating the functions-based expressions. Those are the ones that we're going to be referencing here. So for the collection view, like with any of our other special features that we add, this is just a property that is an object that is all of the calculated fields that we want to include within the collection view. Now, if we come down to our flex grid, we are setting the item source to that get calculated views function, which returns our collection view. We are also doing a couple additional things here just so that we can be sure that our grid is going to display all of our calculated columns. So first, we are setting the auto generate columns to false. The flex grid will by default use the items in the collection views that the collection view holds as its columns and generate based off of that. But since we have some calculated fields, we want to make sure those get included. So we don't want our collection view to just, or our flex grid to just auto generate our columns based on our collection view data. What we actually want to do is we want to set up our own columns, which can be done with the flex grid's columns array. Now, this is an array of objects that are required to have a binding and a header property. The binding property is just the field that we're binding to, and the header property is going to be the column header string that we're going to display for that column. We are also doing some additional formatting things here. So for unit price, for quantity, for discount, for total price, and for taxes, we are setting these formatting properties. If you remember from our paging, N0 is just numeric to the 0 decimal places. C is for currency formatting, and 2 is going to take it to the 2 decimal place. And P is for percentage formatting, and for this, we are also putting it to the 0 decimal place. Now, finally, on our calculated fields, we also have this CSS class property, which we're setting to calculated. This just allows us to define a CSS class that we want to assign to that, that column or those cells. In this case, it's this calculated CSS class, which if we come up here, you can see we're just setting the background color to light gray. And that's just so that whenever we display our data in our grid, we can actually see what the calculated columns are amongst all of the columns that we're displaying. Now, if we come back to our browser, this was calculated. So as you can see here, we have all of our columns that are in our data set that we've, our mock data set that we've created. But then we've also got all of our custom calculated columns here as well. So full name is the combination of the brand and the product names. Uppercase just takes the full name, sets it to uppercase. Total price takes the unit price and the quantity and multiplies those together. And then tax amount is just the total price multiplied by the discount value. And that is how you go about setting up calculated fields based on some of the existing data that you're working with within your collection view. Now, the final sample that we're going to go over before we move on to the master sample is the multi-control sample. So this one we are showing how you can use one collection view to manage your data across multiple controls. This one is going to be using the grid and the chart controls together under one collection view. So we are importing both the grid JavaScript file as well as our charts JavaScript file. We have the elements here that we're going to bind those to, and then we have the data that we are generating here, our mock data. We go ahead and pass that data onto our collection view here. And we are going to set up our flex grid and flex chart controls. So for the flex grid, we set up the item source and assign that to the collection view. And we are also allowing users to add and delete elements within the collection view. And then we are setting up our chart control, which uses the collection view as its item source. The x-axis binding is going to be the country column. And then our series bindings here are going to be downloads, sales, and expenses. Now, both of these controls are using the same collection view. So whenever data is edited in one, in this case, we're going to be editing data in the flex grid, those changes will get reflected within our flex chart control. So we will come back to our browser and we will go over to the multi-control. So as you can see here, we've got our flex grid component, which is displaying all of the data, and we can go ahead and edit that within the grid. And then the chart, which is displaying all of the data as well in a chart format. Now, let's say I come in here and I go, oh, actually, for the UK, the download numbers are incorrect. It wasn't, 4,600. It was actually, 6,700. We'll go ahead and commit that change here. And as you can see, the UK downloads value has now since been updated to match the new value within our chart. So that change that we did in the grid got pushed to the collection view, which then reflected that new data in our chart control. Say I were to come in here and delete the Italy data point here. I'll go ahead and delete that. And as you can see, that is now no longer displaying in our chart because it's no longer a part of our collection view. Now, if I were to come in here and we'll add a new field back, set this to Spain, 11,000 downloads, 5,000 in sales, and 3,200 in expenses. We'll go ahead and commit that new data that we've added. And as you can see here in our flex chart, because they both share the same collection view, that data is now being displayed within our flex chart, the data that we've added to our flex grid. And that's how you can bind two controls to one collection view and have that data, those changes be displayed across controls. Now, the final thing that I would like to show off is this master page that I've got set up here. So in some scenarios, you may have in some instances, you may have a scenario where you need to have multiple collection views to manage multiple data formats across controls, but you want those that data to be properly mocked and managed. In a scenario like this, what you can do is you can use a master collection view to build out other collection views that get used by the actual controls. And then whenever changes are made in those controls, those changes get pushed up to the master collection view, which then will propagate down to the other controls that have collection views built off of it. So for this one, we are using a series of controls. We're using grid, we're using chart, and we're using a couple different input controls. And what we're going to do is we're going to show how you can incorporate editing, filtering, grouping, paging, and sorting all into one single page, having all of that data be reflected across controls under one single master collection view. So we come down here in our markup. We've just got two rows here, one to show our grid and our chart control, and another row to show all of our input controls here. So our pager, our sorter, our grouper, and then our text box that we can use to filter the data. We have our get data function here, which is generating all of our mock data. And then we have our master collection view. Now, in the master collection view, we're doing two things. We're setting a calculated fields, so we can come up with our sales tax field here, and that's going to be based on the sale and the country tax. And then we are setting up a group descriptions for country. Now, the reason that we are setting up this group descriptions for country is that we want to be able to display our aggregate country data in our flex chart. So as you can see here, we are generating 50 data points. Each of those are going to have different countries, and there's going to be multiple of the same country. So multiple entries for US, multiple entries for Japan, so on and so forth. What we want to do is, instead of displaying a bar in our chart for each individual entry, we want to aggregate them under each of the respective countries. So that's why we are setting this group description of country. Next, we have this get group data function. And what this is going to do is it's going to take our master collection view, which is going to get passed to it as an argument, this group argument. It's going to iterate through all of our data. It's going to build out its own array here, which is going to have a country value, an aggregate sales value, an aggregate sale tax value, and then a group value. And it is going to then return a collection view with a sort description set up based on this array. Now, after that has been set up, we can move on to actually setting up our controls themselves. So first off is the flex grid. We are creating a new item, a new collection view to use as its item source, and we are using the master view.items array as the items that are going to display in the grid. So for a collection view, this items property is the actual data that is being held within the collection view. So by using that, we will have the same data, and it can be propagated up and down between the master collection view and the flex grids collection view. We are setting a page size of 15, and then we are setting up our columns. Because we are using a calculated field, this sale tax field, we do have to define the columns that we're going to display in our grid. And then finally, we are using this cell edit ended event to just make sure that the propagation happens so that the changes are reflected amongst the master collection view, which then in turn is going to reflect those changes across the flex chart. For flex chart, it's set up the same way as we did in the previous sample. We have our item source, which we are setting to that get group data function so that it aggregates our country data. And then we are giving it an x-axis binding and two series bindings, sales and sales tax. We are setting up our collection view navigator here, where the collection view is going to be the collection view of our flex grid control. And then we are setting up our drop-down controls here for grouping and sorting. Now, both of these are set up basically the same way. What we are doing is we are setting an item source of an array of strings here, and this will determine how we do our grouping and our sorting. So for grouping, there is non, country, widget, and then country and widget. And then for the sorting, there is non, sales ascending, and sales descending. And then finally, for both of them, we have this selected index changed event, which we are just setting to a function. Now, for both of them, when we enter the selected index change function, we are going to clear out the group descriptions and the sort descriptions arrays respectively. That way, we aren't pushing more grouping or sorting descriptions on top of already existing ones. And then we just use a switch statement to determine how we want to group and sort. For grouping, we can group by country, widget, or country and widget. And if nothing is selected for either of those, so if we use the selection of non, it'll make sure that the group descriptions array is empty. And then for sorting, we can do sales ascending or sales descending. And if the index for that is non, it'll just make sure that we empty that out. And then finally, for filtering, all that we're doing here is we are filtering based on the country value of the grid's collection view. And to make sure that we properly get text matching, we are converting what the user enters into lowercase, and then we are also converting the country value to lowercase, just to make sure that there are no case-sensitive errors going on. Now, if we run this, we'll go ahead back to the master page. So as you can see here, we've got our grid, we've got our chart displaying our data, we've got our page navigator, we've got the ability to sort by ascending and descending values, we've got the ability to group, and then we've got the ability to filter. So say I come in here and I want to only see values for the UK, we can go ahead and enter that, and it's now only displaying UK values here within the grid. If I were to come in here and say I wanted to edit one of these fields, say this wasn't actually a sale in Japan, say this was a sale in France. We'll go ahead and change this to France. And as you can see here, within our chart control, it's actually gone ahead and removed that from the Japan aggregate and moved this over now into the France aggregate. Now, if I were to edit a few more here, we'll go ahead and change this one to France, and we'll go ahead and we'll change this one to France. You can see that there have been some additional changes and edits made within the chart control because of the changes that we went ahead and made here within our grid. Now, if I wanted to add some sorting and some grouping, we can do that as well. We'll come in here into our grouping drop down here. We can group by country, we can group by widget, and we can group by both here. Now, if we come back here, we'll just do refresh this real quick. We'll just go ahead and now we can add in some sales ascending or sales descending. So we'll go ahead and click sales ascending. And as you can see here, now it will go ahead and sort the data by sales ascending. And if we go through each of the pages, you can see that the ascension holds across, the sales ascension holds across pages. And this is really how you can go about leveraging the power of a collection view, not only to manage the data of a single control or multiple controls, but setting up a master collection view so that changes across all of the controls of your page that they're managing your data get reflected when one gets updated. And now we've come to the end of the presentation. So if you remember at the beginning, I did say that we would be doing a Widmo license giveaway. We have the QR code up on screen right now, so you can scan that QR code and enter to win the giveaway. But also, we do have some time available for questions. So feel free to go ahead and drop any questions that you may have in chat, and I'll do my best to answer them. All right, it looks like we have a question here. So do you need to bind a collection view to Widmo controls, or can you bind them to non-Widmo components? So the Widmo collection view isn't limited to just being bound to Widmo components. You can use it with any of your existing components within your web application. If you remember, in one of those, I was just referencing the CollectionView.items property. That's the array of data that the collection view manages. So if you wanted to, say, use a collection view to manage the data in your own custom grid control, you would set the value of that grid to the CollectionView.items array, and that would allow you to make use of all of Widmo's collection view functionality within your own components. See, is there a size limit or is there a limit to the size of data that a collection view can hold? No, there is no limit to how much data the collection view can hold. The only thing that I will say is that there is limitations on browser memory. So really the only things that you would run into are performance related issues if the data that you're trying to load into a collection view is too much for the browser to manage. Does the collection view work with remote or asynchronous data sources? Yes, it does. So the collection view can be bound to remote data sources as well as asynchronous data sources. And we do also have some extensions to the collection view, such as the REST collection view, which is basically a collection view that's designed to connect directly to a REST data source. We also have the ability for you to connect directly to OData sources and Firestore data sources as well. Can I customize how sorting, filtering, and grouping work? Yes. In our documentation, which I believe there was a QR code at the beginning of the stream that would take you to our collection view documentation. But if you navigate there, we have pages in our documentation that show you how you can explicitly set up customized sorting, filtering, and grouping for your needs. All right. Thank you, everyone, for attending. And I hope you enjoyed the CodeClinic on Widgemo's collection view and how you can filter, edit, sort, and manage your data with a single data source.